Welcome back to All Indiana. Well, there are times in our lives where we will have to weather a storm, whether it's the death of a loved one, a terminal cancer diagnosis, or even a crisis of our own making. Better than just surviving, we can be thriving by shifting our perspective.
If you see yourself as a victim, that's what you'll be. But if you choose to see yourself as a victor, you can have an impact that you never even imagined. And that's the message in this book called Don't Waste This Storm. When life throws you a curveball, you must embrace it. And let me tell you, Rod Knair is a dentist and a certified leadership coach and discovered this message when he was in the eye of his own massive storm. Rod joining us now. Rod, thank you so much for being here. Let me tell you, even just that one intro, just so profound. The clouds closed in on you late in your marriage. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I had sold my dental practice and was going to start working more part-time, and then my wife started this healthcare storm, which was, I'm not going to get into it, but it was supposed to be about 2 years in length. And it actually, the symptoms and everything she went through was really worse than cancer treatment. 18 months into it, we're seeing the end of this defined storm. We hear she has terminal cancer. You have 18 to 24 months to live, and it just whoosh, the storm took us down. So that was kind of, and then the story of, so that's kind of the storm, and how we came up and what we did in the storm is really what I want to share with your viewers.
Yeah,
Wow.
And let's get into that. When it comes to shifting your perspective, how do you start? How do you do that?
Well, like I said, we'd kind of been doing life a long time. We were 35 years married when it all started, that last 5-year journey. And Beth started her chemo, and then we had to do chemo for 3 weeks at University of Michigan Cancer Center. And when we got there, I said to her, it's not about us. And she looked at me, and I then, as I started to write the book, I was able to call it the who, what, when, where, why, and how of a perspective shift. And what I mean by that is when you're hit with a storm of life, like you said, it can be any type of storm, healthcare, financial, relational, or like loss of a loved one. Your first question when that storm hits is, why me or why her? And you just wear yourself out trying to make sense of why. Well, then the second question, which is about as fruitless, is when is it going to end? Because a lot of storms do they do end. They're not like terminal cancer. And you wear yourself on when is it going to end, and then like when is Beth going to pass away? And again, you just wear yourself out. And then the third question you ask is, how can I get myself out of it? What can I do? And all of these are, to me, you have to do your due diligence when a storm hits. You have to, you've got to check things out, find out what your options are. But at the end of the day, it can become just this victim pity party. And I think when I said that to Beth in the hospital, what it is, we started to look at the other three questions. And they're, what can we do with the experiences and the gifts we've been given, where we now find ourselves? And we found ourselves in a lot of different places during that 5 years we never would have gone to. And then with who is now around us. We're surrounded by people we would have never come in contact with. And that's when we started to move from victim, and I don't know if victor is the right answer, but finding a purpose in where we found ourselves.
It takes a lot to take the wisdom that you get in something like a storm and share it with others. You've said a lot of fascinating things, and one of them has been, it's not where you find yourself, but who you're with that matters. Briefly tell us about that.
Well, my wife and I had 5 children, and at the time of her passing, 11 grandchildren, so busy life. And I got a lead into the story that this came from, but a couple of years before the storm hit, we were down to, I think, one son in college living in our house, and we were heading about an hour away to a funeral dinner for one of her cousin's parents. And I said to Beth, funeral dinner date night. And she looked at me. I said, we are by ourselves in a car for an hour each way. This is a date.
I know that's right.
Fast forward to we're in the hospital, and it turns out Valentine's Day was during that 3-week stay at the cancer center. And I just happened to give my wife a diamond ring on Valentine's Day, so it's always was special. And on that Valentine's, we decorated her room, my daughter's. I bought her a red blouse. She took off her hospital garb. I couldn't have candles, so I got these battery-operated votive candles, and I found the song that they played for our first dance at our wedding, and I played it. And they did have steak on the menu at the hospital. And I'll tell you, it wasn't where we were at. It was who I was with. I was with the love of my life, and it was the best Valentine's Day of the 42 Valentine's Day we had.
Wow. Oh, thank
and I think so often we want to look at our circumstances, our surroundings. You know, it's got to be the best restaurant, or I've got to have the most expensive dress, and
it doesn't have to be that.
Right,
Rod,
guys.
thank you so much.
All right, the book is Don't Waste This Storm. Rod, thank you again so much for joining us and giving us your insight.